What is going on, boys and girls of YouTube? I just hit my microphone. So today we're going to knock out a little jungle tier list. I've put a good portion of the gods down into do not jungle these tier. This will be public on the Smite Stories website if you want to, go back and look at it. If I'll drop the link below in the description so you can look up there. But yeah, we're just going to go into it. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the video if you want me to do more of these for each role. Pretty easy to do, and I like doing them. So I can knock those out in the next couple weeks, next week or two, if you want them. So just let me know. We're gonna go ahead and get into it. So we've got our tiers broken down. I made them pretty simple. Like the goal of this is simple. This is a jungle tier list, right? Top picks, like what you want to be playing. And I labeled these as consistent carries and ranked / casuals, have very few bad matchups, if any. So these are the gods that are winning in ranked all the time. I've played a ridiculous amount of ranked over the last couple of weeks. I have a really good grasp of what's winning at all the divisions. So we're going to go ahead and throw those kind of gods in there. Then we have the second tier, always good, never a bad pick, not as consistent with performance as those top picks, and staying at the top of the lobbies. You're not carrying as much, but they'll still do great. They'll be really, really, really good picks, right? You might have an occasionally bad matchup. Then I got the average tier, which is your solid pickups, have bad matchups that you need to pay attention to in case they because they will make the game difficult, or they could make the game difficult for you. And then I have the pretty bad tier, which is stuff you play for fun, or if it really just happens to fit into the team comp. So that's that. We're gonna start out with it. We've got Achilles. We're gonna throw Achilles down into average. The only problem with him is that he's slow. He gets online slow. You need a little bit of follow-up. If you do manage to get an early lead, or if your team is grouping and actually engaging, solid pickup, right? Really, really good pickup. Amaterasu, pretty bad. She's just bad all around right now, not just in the jungle, but in solo and as support. She's just not being played. It's not her. She's not in the meta. She's not in the meta. And it applies to jungle too. She doesn't really have anywhere where she fits and does well consistently. You can mess around with an auto attack build. You can mess around with like a hybrid build or still go to ability build. It's just not as good. Nowhere near as good. On her, one of the best hunters for jungling. I'll put on her into average. If you're a good on her player and you understand like how to set up and how to be aggressive and play assassin-y as a hunter, actually a really, really good pick. At one point, you saw some of the pro players that like hunters playing on her, and then Ul and a couple other gods in the jungle and doing really well. Still the same case. I've seen Medusa actually played in the jungle a lot more recently, which is weird, and it's been working. We'll test that out later. Anubis is going to fall into your pretty bad category. He's cool, and he's got this crazy aggression, but if the enemy team knows how to build Magi's and they know how to build anti-heal, you are screwed. And I have people arguing with me in my last tier list. I farm anyway. Anti-heal doesn't matter. It matters. It absolutely matters. If you can't out-heal the damage that's incoming, you die. And I know for a fact, those of you that are saying, I hit my whole ult, you don't hit your ult. It ain't happening. If they're not CC'd, you are not landing your whole ult. And even if you were, you're still dying at the same time. Anubis will never be great until they add mobility to his kit so he can avoid damage. Or they make it so he can move while casting. That would be crazy. That'd be broken. Aokwang. I'm going to put Aokwang into the always good category for right now going into the next season. Reason for this. We've seen it played now at the SPL, which I've always said Aokwang was underrated in your casuals and ranked games. Kind of a super pub stomp god, meaning you just play well into people that are not playing together as a group unit, right? Now, seeing it play at the SPL level kind of wraps it all together for me, or puts it all together for me. So what I was feeling is accurate. The god has insane 1v1 potential once you get halfway built through the game, so you get 4 items online. Your farm is not bad. Especially with the starters the way they are. The way the early game is played, you don't even have to really fight or do anything, and there's a lot of games being played kind of slow in the first couple of levels again. That's even better for Kwang. And once you hit that mid to late game, as long as you are not far behind, you will carry the game. You are in a fine position to carry the game. The builds you're looking at are usually ability based with 1 auto attack item. That's even what was being played in the Worlds tournament. You go normal mage items, throw Telkines in there, and you slap. Apollo, pretty bad right now overall. Just his kit and the builds aren't making him do anything crazier, but the fact that he has a global ult does make it so he can be played and you can kind of have fun on him where it's not the worst. But, you know, something you shouldn't be doing. Arachne. Arachne is doing really, really well again, but that's kind of the case for all the auto attack gods. Arachne kind of dipped when the ability junglers came out again, and then everyone kind of realized, well, you can still run these auto attack-ish builds with the Crusher and a couple of these other really, really good items. You still have Oboe, tier 2 early being OP. You have your Kins being good, your Exi being good, your Dominance being good. So Arachne still works and will win you a lot of your casual and ranked games. Like a lot. Because in your games, the consistent thing from bronze all the way to diamond is that players don't know how to deal with someone auto attacking them down as a single unit. The way you play around is you play around your team. If you don't have a team that understands that, which is going to be really common in most of your matches, nobody fights that person with you. So the Arachne goes on the mage, the hunter isn't there hitting the Arachne 3 times and instant killing the Arachne at most levels. When you get to higher levels, that's what happens, and that's why gods like Arachne fall off very, very hard at those levels. You can't get on the target without everyone else hitting you. In your games, you can get on the target. No one else will hit you most of the time. And that person will freak out and start trying to run away rather than turning and fighting you. And you'll just outtrade them every single time. And that's why same with Kwang. Very similar situation with Kwang. And that's why Arachne is doing so well. Ares, pretty bad, but works. Actually kind of fun. You build very tanky because you use the auras to get your magical power. Your clear early is good and your aggression is kind of nuts. It's actually really wild. Would recommend trying it if you're a guardian jungle type of player. Artio, bad. Artio isn't pretty bad right here. I'm just gonna mention it when they're worse. Artio is worse. Artio has huge mana issues. Your gank is not that good, and when you build damage to actually do damage, you die too fast. Your kit requires you to be in their face for 10 seconds. You can't do that when you're full damage build, and you just die. Athena. I'm going to put Athena in average. I think Athena is a little bit better than average, but she's actually not too hard to play around as an enemy team. She's annoying, but she's not hard to play around. She's also not difficult to play if you are playing her. So it's a solid pick for you to learn that Guardian initiation role on. Atlas, pretty bad because his damage numbers are so low. That's all it comes down to. Oelix. Oelix is really, really good right now. Even without knockups in your team, like not relying on those knockups, if you know how to play Oelix properly, she's a very, very good pick. Consistently good, consistent aggression, really good clear, fastest rotations in the game because of her Suku. And then she has the 2 to avoid damage. The knockup is the best CC in the game. She's got her ultimate, which she can use to just use as an auto attack buff or for that pull. She has a lot of ways to play her, and they're all good. Bacchus. Bacchus is actually kind of fun to play. I'm gonna put him in average. He's definitely better than all of these guys. His damage right now is super, super high. His clear is not bad. Pairing it with a poly, you are able to one-shot people off of the knockup, which means they can't active it or do anything to it. They can just eat it. So as long as you get through that first, I want to say like first 10 minutes of the game, you're actually in a really good spot. The biggest thing is not over committing onto Bacchus. You don't want to jump way too far out in front of your team from that role in the jungle. But that applies to playing any damage guardian in the jungle role. Bacchusura. Probably one of the few assassins. Nah, I'll put him in average. Pretty bad's not fair. But he is one of the few assassins that is actually just not good. He is not good. His whole damage source is based around his ultimate and his 3. On top of that, nothing in your regular kit, your 1 or your 2, really make it so you can just consistently keep autoing somebody without them leaving, getting away from you, without them turning on you, without them CCing you. And that's where the problem comes into play. Even with his ult, they extended the CC immunity on his ult for a little bit, but it's still not enough. It's like, it should be the full duration of the ult. That would make him very, very strong, but it's not. It's like a second. It's not enough. Baron can be played in the jungle. Very hard to get away with because you're super mobile, but it's actually not a bad like mid-ranged jungler because of how short the cooldowns are on your abilities with CDR, and you could do a lot of damage and play around your team a lot. You also could set up your team easily with the 3 without putting yourself out of position. Bastet, absolute damage pumper right now. She is insanely strong. Do not recommend letting her get through the picks and bans unless you are going to pick her at the top. She will run your games. It is not fun at all to play against her. She doesn't have a lot of counter picks. There are obviously gods that can match into her and not get pummeled. But in terms of countering her, there's very, very few things that you're really going to look at that'll actually hard counter. There are junglers you can play into her like Dodgy that won't have terrible matchups. Realistically, I don't recommend letting her through. I'd rather play against a lot of other picks. I'm gonna I want to jump ahead a little bit just because this is who I'm gonna kind of swap out. I want to talk about picks and bans while doing this. So Cleena, another top pick god. I would rather ban Bastet and let Cleena through than ever ban Cleena and let Bastet through, if that makes sense. I'd much rather play against Cleena than Bastet, but they're both insanely strong. The damage they put out is way too high. Both of them are just insane damage. Insane damage. It doesn't mean nobody can play into them. It just means they have to kind of mess up a little bit for you to be able to play into them for free. And that's, as long as you're playing these gods enough to understand what not to do. Like on Bastet, don't leap out of position. Don't waste your leap for no reason. Like that's the biggest thing on Bastet. And on Cleena, it's don't answer a fight out of the wall right in their face unless you know it's a kill. Like as long as you're not doing either of those things, you just leave. Leave every fight. We'll go to the next one, Bologna. Bologna I've been messing around with in the jungle a lot. And she's actually really strong. I had someone play ADC against me with her. And I was surprised by how much she did. Played her in the jungle with a similar build. You're still going into just the Eye of the Jungle, which is now buffed and really good. You're getting Crusher. And then off of that, you can kind of build however you want. You can go into a Berserker Shield and some hybrid items. Or you can just go into like true hybrid items. You get tankier and be an initiator. But she works. She plays better than Bacchus as a in-your-face W key jungler, right? Like I'm just going to auto you down because she has everything to stick to you. She got her 2 to do big burst damage. If that gets interrupted, you don't care. If you're 1 to stick to them, your 3 has longer auto attack ranges. Her passive gives you more movement speed so you can stick on top of people. She pretty much does what Bacchus wants to do and what Arachne wants to do with a different kit. You have to have more skill on your end than you would playing Arachne. So she's a little bit harder to get away with, but she works really, really well. And I was surprised by it. Cabrakan Average. My reason for this is he literally has to get to a point where he's one-shotting and you have to be on the team that is running at them and initiating. If you don't get to the point where you're one-shotting, say you don't get early kills, the game just goes on and on and on, and it's real slow and the farm is slow and the kills are slow so you don't get online earlier, everyone will get to a point where they won't get just one shot straight up. They'll have their actives, they'll have defensive items, they'll have the aura items from the supports. Makes it a lot harder. Second side of that is if your team is being initiated on consistently, if you are not the aggressing team, it is terrible and it feels impossible to play Cabrakan. Like literally impossible. So that's the problem with Cabrakan is that's something you don't necessarily control unless you create early pressure. Cabrakan doesn't have great early fights and early pressure against a lot of comps. So you can't do that. You can't be the one that decides if it's an aggressive game by yourself. So that's something you have to watch out for. Camazotz. Camazotz, I don't think I've seen lose a game in ranked like in 2 months. It's his damage output. They upped it so his ult goes in the air faster, which means he's safer all the time. He's got the leap, which is really good. They buffed that, I think, last year. Made him really, really strong. And then his damage numbers with all of the damage items are just high. His scaling is high. His cooldowns are low. He's able to spam. He's like the perfect jungler and what you usually want out of a jungle, which is just extremely high instant damage. And he's just killing it. He's doing very well. Cerberus, pretty bad. You level your 1 when you do play Cerberus. He's just slow damage over. Like it takes time to get your damage online and ramp it up, and you're gonna get targeted during that. You're gonna get CC'd. You're gonna take a lot of damage when your damage build's gonna be rough. Cern overall is a bad god, but in the jungle you actually get to use his passive a little bit, so you gain, you know, a little bit there, but he's still really weak. Probably the weakest hunter for you to almost be meant in the jungle, but actually not be good. Chalk, average. I like his early and his mid game. His late game, you just die. Even in your ult with the reduced damage taken, you just die super fast when you're built full damage, and that's really the problem. He falls off at like level 13, 14, and he never comes back. Shangha, average. Shangha's actually pretty good in the jungle. She's slow ramp up. Her clear isn't insane, but she catches people off guard with the cooldown on her abilities. She's able to spam a lot. She can keep her team alive in the team fights, which is unexpected. People don't like to build anti-heal in general. Definitely not against a jungle Shangha because they think it's already weak. So you have that to your advantage. Charybdis, not a bad jungler. Decent mobility. Very safe in team fights still. Just a way better ADC. Chernobog, similar to Charybdis, but way better at ganking because you can use your ultimate to just instantly be wherever you want. Catch people off guard. Chiron. Chiron needs to be in the do not jungle. I lied. Chiron's bad at jungling. He's pretty bad. He's not good, but he could jungle. And I would think you were trolling if you were in a ranked game. If you're in a casual game, I'd be like, okay, I get it. I understand it. Kronos, average on that jungle tier list. Actually, it's really good clear. Great mobility around the map with this too. Fairly safe because his ultimate, as long as it is up. If it is not up, you cannot be pathing aggressively or where you don't know where they are. Really good burst damage, really good team fight potential. Good fight off of a blink, which is kind of rare out of a lot of the weaker gods that I have like in an average and pretty bad tier. Off of a blink, you know, it's you're going to get in the point where like Charybdis off the blink isn't that good. Chernobog off the blink isn't that good. Most of the other ones off the blink are pretty solid, but most of these off the blink, not very good. So think about that when you're applying it to, because as a jungler, you're not an initiator, but you're an instant follow-up. Like you have that instant follow-up off of your support or off of your solo initiating. Cthulhu works, but in the late game, you die really, really quick, and your clear isn't insane in the jungle, so you don't really have a better early game than other gods. Cullen, I think Cullen's average. He pumps out a lot of damage. You don't have as easy rage control, which is unfortunate, but you do a lot of damage, and you have early aggression in the wave at level 2, which can create that pressure you need for the rest of the match. Cupid, he's weak right now, but he works in the jungle because his 1 is decent clear, but outside of that, he brings nothing to the table, and that's why he's in pretty bad. Dodgy, top pick. I had a bunch of comments on the last tier list video saying, why is Dodgy at the top? I don't think Dodgy's at the top. I think Dodgy's bad. The worst quote of it all was, Dodgy's 2 is the worst ability in the game, and they weren't trolling. And I responded. They, of course, never responded back to me, but I responded. I said, you do know Dodgy's 2 makes you faster. You take less damage to anyone hitting you from behind, so you can literally turn your back to them, and you will take less damage. And it has really high consistent damage for that 2 to 3 second period. It also makes you knockup immune. So you're telling me an ability that does damage, makes you take less damage, makes you knockup immune is bad. It makes you faster is bad. It makes no sense. Aside from that, that's not even the core part of Dodgy's kit. That is the least important ability out of her kit that you were trying to point out. Dodgy is good because of auto attack canceling. That is where she, at the mid to late game, she excels. You 3 auto, 1 auto. That damage comes out in less than a second. It should take you 0.5 seconds to do that. That means you hit with your 3 in the late game for 400 to 600, depending on who you're hitting on. You auto with a Hydra's proc. That auto is going to hit for 400, 500, 600 as well. So let's say you're going on a mage, that's 1200 damage. You are then going to 1 instantly, and that will cause your auto to reset. You will instantly auto again. That 1 is going to burst and put a bleed on them. And then your auto is going to burst again for another 600. That should one-shot any mage, hunter, or full damage jungler in the game in less than a second. That is why Dodgy is good. If you can't do that, go practice it in jungle practice because it is very, very easy to do. 3 auto, 1 auto. That's it. Instantly. That's it. That is why Dodgy is so good. You could do that. You can then ult up into the air for safety, buy yourself time to get all your cooldowns back online. And then you can burn beads while in the air, waiting for your cooldowns to come up, drop off of it, go fight again. That was her. So that's what makes her really, really good. She also counters a lot of gods. She counters Cleena. Cleena has no CC immunity. She has to get into a wall. You can cancel your ult and pull her before she gets in the wall. Bastet, no CC. Actually, I don't know. Does Bastet's ult give you CC immunity? I'm not 100% on that one, but still works well into Bastet because you can catch Bastet in her leap and pull her right back to you. She can't beads or do anything while jumping back off of her leap. Camazotz not gonna be you're not gonna hard counter Camazotz. That's not the case here. Does well into Aokwang. This is I'm just gonna point out into these gods that I've already put in these tiers. Does very well in Aokwang because your bleeds bring Aokwang out of stealth. Quang also doesn't really have a CC immune ult. You can use your ult for CC immunity, but if you get a Quang to waste his ult for CC immunity, you win. Arachne, you're not going to hard counter Arachne, but you're also not going to die to Arachne because you have slow immunity on your 2, so you can avoid Arachne auto attacking you and kite her around. Wheelix, no CC immunity, easy ult counter. Bologna, not a direct counter and a weird god in the first place, but if you can make Bologna waste her ult just because you hit her with one of your 3 chains in your ult, that's a W on your part. Sadaji is a insanely good pick, has great clear, good at all parts of the game. You have to learn how to auto attack cancel. Please. That will make your life way better. Danzaboro, however you say it, actually average, pretty solid hunter because of his ult. He's just got crazy gank potential. Erlang Shen, always good is where I'm going to put him. What did I just do? Okay, there we go. Always good is where I'm going to put him. He has some counter matchups that will make the game hard for him, but he's never a bad pick. Literally never, ever a bad pick. Gonna have consistency issues into some comps, and it's gonna be a little bit harder for you, but he's got good aggression early, which is what a lot of you are gonna need to look for. Good CC, good range poke, and really good damage when you get on top of a target. E-set, pretty bad. Wouldn't recommend playing in the jungler as a jungler. You're seeing it played in support in the SPL right now, which is interesting, but not as a jungler. Too easy to kill, too easy to jump on top of. Fenrir, I'm going to put Fenrir in always good right now. He's performing really, really well with first item Blackthorn Hammer, which I like. I'm going to update that build or put that as an optional build on the Smite source here. It just makes him feel tankier and survive better when diving in that early game and allows him to create more pressure. He's just doing really well. He's a hyper aggressive god where you have to know your limitations, but you want to continue fighting all the time with him to get yourself a lead. Freya. I actually am putting Freya in average. I think she's a super good jungler that nobody realizes. She's being played in mid and in the ADC role in ranked and casuals right now. In the SPL, she's being played as an ADC a lot. Once you get an auto attack item online with hasten, nobody out trades you. It just doesn't happen. You don't get out traded as long as you're 2 and you're 1 or up, which is how you kind of just run through teams. She ends up playing similar to Arachne or similar to Kali or similar to any of your just pure auto attack in your face gods, but people don't know how to play into it yet. She has a lot of counter picks, so that's why I'm putting her in the average tier. Ganesh, I wouldn't really play this in the jungle, but it's not terrible. It's better than Atlas, at least for clear. Geb, oddly average. He has really pretty good jungle clear, great rotations. His team fights are crazy, and his damage output is unreal. Gilgamesh is just always a good pick. He's got his counter matchups. Dodgy does well into Gilgamesh. There's some gods that play just fine into Gilgamesh because they can immune his knockback on his 2. But he does a lot of damage. He has good mobility. He has an ultimate that disrupts an entire area for a team fight. It's his damage output, his early game, his mid game, his late game. It's all there. His damage output is there in every stage of the game. So definitely something you want to look at playing. Guan Yu, average as a jungler. In terms of what he's going to do for you. He does a good amount of damage. If you can get on targets that don't have mobility, you do pump out a lot of damage. If you can 3 on top of them, full duration, and then 2 them, and then ult them, you'll kill somebody. Problem is, it takes so long to do that damage, and if they're good, they're going to be returning damage to you, and it's hard to win that trade as a damage building warrior right now. Hachiman. Honestly, Hachi's not bad as a jungler. It might sound weird. Good clear because he's got two clearing abilities. He actually has gank potential because he's got a stun on his 3. He's got a slow out of his ultimate. He's fairly safe. One of those like almost jungle-esque hunters like on her or Ul, but not quite there. Hades, definitely pretty bad on the tier list. I wouldn't recommend playing Hades. You can clear, but your ganks are bad. Your pressure is bad. You don't really bring a lot other than clear and entering team fights late. That's about it. Hebo's always good as a jungler. You have insanely strong matchups like into you. So like Dodgy and Fenrir will full counter you. There will be nothing you can do. Another one is Cleena. Full counter you. There's nothing you can do. If Dodgy ults you, you need to beats or you need ultimate. Problem is Dodgy's 2 is knock-up immune. So she can jump on top of you, full combo you, and use her 2, and you can't get her off of you. Same with Fenrir. His 3 is knock-up immune. So if he jumps on you, autos you, and 3s you, which will 100 to 0 you, you can't get him off of you. So you have to either Aegis or you need to kill him before he kills you, which becomes very difficult. Heimdall, actually not a bad jungler. Decent mobility around the map as long as you're using your 3 correctly. Does really good damage, has really good clear, has gank potential because you have the setup with your ultimate. Not the best of all the hunters, but definitely not a bad hunter to take into the jungle and play for the mid to late game. Hercules. I was enlightened by Coat Baby, one of the top end minor league players, junglers, of a Hercules build that he has. I'll put it as my build, as a build here. I'll upload it in the next 24 hours. Hercules Jungle does so much damage in the early game, will not get out traded by anybody. And then with this build, it's a very high CDR Hydra's build where you get sustain in it and you can auto attack cancel all of your abilities. You can one shot any squishy, any hunter or mage, you can instantly one shot through auto attack canceling. And it is extremely consistent. Now, a little bit higher skill god, need to land your 2s. If you can't land your 2s, probably don't play Hercules or go practice it a lot. But if you're landing your 2s, it's a really, really solid jungle pick, which will catch most people off guard. Horus, not a bad jungler. He just doesn't do as much damage as you would like, but his cooldowns are kind of long, but he's pretty good. Ho Yi, another average hunter because his balances in the jungle are insane. If you get between level 1 and 14, if you ever double hit somebody, you win that fight. You will insta kill that person, which is scary. Very, very scary. Humbat's always a good pick in the jungle. Top pick, great clear, good team fights. Gets countered by a lot of gods, but overall a solid pick always for you in the jungle. Janus, an average jungle pick. Takes a lot of skill to play Janus. You need to be moving around the map, creating pressure. Ganks are there because of your rotation potential and the damage output, but you don't have a lot of great CC. You don't really want to be wasting your portals. Yorm, pretty bad jungler. I'm gonna be honest with you. Because even with a full damage build, you don't really pump damage. You take a lot and then you rely on your ultimate. And once your ultimate's down, you're not really safe. Just not a fun god to be playing. Kali. I think Kali is actually the best jungler for you to be playing right now to grind ranks in ranked. I think Kali is the best casual and ranked jungler in Smite. I don't see that changing anytime soon for any reason. You don't really have any terrible matchups. You've got matchups that can be harder, but as long as you pay attention to what's difficult about the matchup and either avoid that situation or just be prepared for it, you'll be fine. The god is actually insane. She just wins. That's what she literally just wins games. And it's weird because we haven't seen the idea of a hyper carry in Smite really be a thing in a while. And I won't say she's a hyper carry. I don't think that's what it is. Because I think once you get 4 items online, you're doing the same thing to them from that point on in the game. So you're not really hyper carrying. She just doesn't lose. She doesn't die. She doesn't lose. Kill your targets, win games. King Arthur, terrible. Don't take it in the jungle. Don't do it to yourself. Kuzimbo, similar situation. Don't do it to yourself. You can make it work, but why? Why would you do it to yourself? Loki. Loki is a top pick right now. Not in comparison necessarily to the other junglers, like in matchup wise. Like you don't want to really match up against Kali or Adachi or Camazotz. Most of them can do very well into you, but your damage output as an assassin into squishy targets is unmatched. Your 3 has over 200% scaling. At level 2, if you blink on a mage properly, you stealth in, you blink on them, you auto them, you 3 them, they die. They will literally die from that damage. The blink auto 1, auto 3 will kill that target. And that stays the same throughout the whole game. You're not going to be immune to your 3 as well, which is a massive thing to play around on Loki. Medusa, it's going to catch some people off guard, I think. Medusa, with the jungler items, her scaling is very high on her abilities, first of all. But with the scaling on those, with the items in the jungle, the amount of power and damage you dump between your 2, your 3, and your ultimate is actually nuts. She's working very well in the jungle, and I'll probably be playing her on stream tonight just to mess around with her and push her a little bit. Mercury, always good. Target away from whoever goes spectral. If anyone builds spectral, don't kill that person first. The one-shot build will work all the time. It's a very, very consistent build. And now that Mercury's 1 can be thrown over walls, a lot more viable. Morgan Le Fay, an average mage to play in the jungle. She's just not safe. That's her biggest problem, is that she is not safe. Her clear is kind of in the jungle. But in terms of rotating into a lane, she creates a lot of pressure and has really, really good CC. Mulan, definitely a top pick in the jungle right now. I hate saying this. I ban Mulan in my ranked games. See it not banned a lot. Mulan in either the solo or the jungle, insanely strong. I like playing in the jungle. Your damage output is unreal. Your 2, I literally in an even game. Actually, I think we were winning. I think I was playing Cleena or someone I was playing full assassin. Mulan's 2 at me for 863. It also, you know, slows you and kind of claps your cheeks. But 800 plus damage on an not even assassin, on a warrior's 2 is unreal. And you're never going to be able to change my mind with that. If you can use your 3s to move around the map, meaning like if you need to get away from an ability, you hit the wall with it to pull yourself to the wall, or you're just hitting them on targets consistently. Solid god. Naja finally won an SPL game for the first time all year, but Naja is still extremely average. You're out of position whenever you use any ability, and that is the problem with Naja. Nemesis, top pick because of the simplicity of the god. You cannot actually really miss an ability. Can't miss your ultimate. Shouldn't ever miss your 2. Your 3 is just going to be used as auto attack canceling, and whenever damage is about to hit you, you're going to reflect it back. Nem is great. Played as an auto attack god, as a hybrid god, as an ability god, as everything. And Nemesis can kill any target because of her ultimate. So tanks then become a kill target for an assassin, which is a scary thing for the enemy tanks. Nike, average. Works in the jungle, just kind of slow, and the fact that your 1 can be interrupted, pretty much taking all your damage away. And when you're built full damage, if your 1 is interrupted, you're kind of screwed. That's why she's in the average tier. Odin, average tier as well, because his early pressure and damage potential isn't really there for the first like level 2, 3-ish, 4-ish. It's kind of like in 6, 7, 8 when you start to one tap with your combos. Makes it rough because if you get into the mid lane, the enemy team creates pressure, you're kind of screwed for the rest of that early game, and it makes it hard to come back from. Osiris, average because of your late game fall off. Pele, always a good pick to me. The knock-up CC is just too good. Gods can play around you, but your engagements and matchups and fights are very strong. Poseidon, skill-wise, comes into play here. Poseidon's a great jungler because you're fast while moving around the map without really trying to be. You're going to be clearing quickly and moving quickly, and you can just throw your whirlpool into a lane and then leave, and you'll get that golden XP. And then your team fights are big. You have the big fat ults. You can move around and kind of be annoying the way you want to as a jungler, but you don't really get to dive the backline as easily, and that's the one downside to him. It's a lot of skill with positioning with him that's going to keep him in the always good tier. If you don't have a lot of practice on Poseidon, I'd probably say he's average for you. Raijin, actually an average mage. You have mobility. You have really good damage output. You have decently short cooldowns. Kind of does it all. It's just the fact that, once again, diving into the backline is extremely difficult. Rat. Giving Rat some love in this patch. Stay away from Thistlethorn Acorn. Go into the Healing Acorn. Get yourself a Blackthorn. Get yourself a Soul Eater. Get yourself some hybrid-y, tanky HP items. And the game is really easy to play, and he does well consistently. Ravana, probably one of the last top junglers in the game to me. These are who you should be playing most of your matches. Ravana has CC immunity on his 2 that also does damage. He can use his ult to avoid damage and to do more damage. He has really good setup with his root and his slow, and his damage output with his scaling is just high. He's a threat in the jungle for everybody and has very few bad matchups. Scylla, fun to play in the jungle. Decently consistent because of the mobility, but you are still playing a mage into the assassin role, and diving the backline is very difficult. Serket, sadly I have to do this. Serket's average right now. If you build damage enough to kill somebody, you're sitting still for too long. Your 1 sits you in one place for a second. Your ultimate sits you on top of somebody's head, not moving for that second, and you die during that time, and that's a problem. Set, always a good pick. Anti-heal is going to make the game more hard, much more hard for you. A little rough, but not a bad pick at all. Scotty, average. Kind of a fun hunter to play in the jungle, and the idea of Scotty working in the jungle is there because your ultimate is great setup and great initiation. You have no mobility at all, and that's a big problem. Wukong, actually always good in the jungle in my opinion. Your 1 is great clear. It's also great clear in the lane when you're rotating around and want to get mid pressure. Insane gank potential. I max the 3 first because its base damage is 340 plus your scaling I think is like 80 or 90. Might even be 100, but I think it's 80 or 90. So that 3 is going to hit for 500, 600, 700 once you max it out and you have items. It's nuts. Absolutely nuts. Susano, a great pick in the jungle. Have your bad matchups, but god tier because of your ultimate in the mid of late game. If you knock up 2 people in the middle of a fight, you win that team fight. Knockup is such a strong CC. It instantly turns the tides of whatever fight you're in. Susano is great, but there's a catch. Top pick if you can auto attack cancel. If you cannot auto attack cancel, do not even waste your time playing this god. Literally, he goes from top pick down to like average pretty bad if you're not auto attack canceling. I'm not even exaggerating at all. I don't know why Umoja's here. Umoja should not be in the jungle. Do not play Umoja. Shibalanka would not play in the jungle either because you have 0 initiation, really CC setup or gank potential. Sylvanas. Played him in the jungle at 2,600 MMR the other day. I think we made him surrender in 13 minutes. I think I had 10 kills. Mannequin's pressure on Sylvanas and the damage output is ridiculous. If you aren't aggressing though and the other team starts aggressing, you lose the game. That's why he's an average. Thanatos, always good. I think Thanatos is a great pick, and you can play him all day long and snowball all day long. But once you get to late mid games in team fights, if you miss your scythe, you lose the team fight for your team more than likely. And that's a terrible feeling because it could be you missing. It could be the other team just avoiding it. They could Aegis it. They could dodge it. And that will instantly make you lose that fight because you're out of position and you haven't killed that target. The Morrigan, kind of rough to play in the jungle, but at the same time, a little fun. She's average. She can be played around way too easy. If assassins start running at you with Erendite, your game is done. So Thor, pretty average right now. He needs a couple buffs. He's not doing terrible, but he falls off after like, I think it's level 12 or 13. He's just done. His damage output just dramatically falls off from there on out. Tsukiyomi's always good because he has his ultimate. He can go beads and Aegis and survive longer. He's really good spammability with his one. Just keep throwing it out over and over again. Solid. Tyr, great pick, but knockup immune gods completely ruin your life. Anyone who builds Magi's ruins your life because if they build Magi's, you blink to go on them, they kill you before you can CC them. It's just how it works. Ooh, actually a pretty good jungler. Mana becomes an issue. And farm becomes an issue. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes. Because if you aren't getting kills early, then the god really isn't that good. Vamana, kind of right now. I'm going to throw him to average because of the attack speed buff. I almost want to put him pretty bad. He dies too quick. See, the anti-heal makes him die too quick. Ymir, you saw my video the other day. He could work. Very average because he lacks mobility. He has 0 mobility. He will just die against anyone who knows what they're doing. And then Zeus. I also would put Zeus in average. I think Zeus is a fun mage to jungle right now. You get caught in the jungle with an ability down, you're dead. Even with an ability up, you're probably dead to another assassin. So you need to ward a lot, and your positioning becomes way too important for you. When usually on junglers, you have so much mobility, your positioning isn't that important. That's why Zeus is going to fall where he falls. So here's my jungle tier list. I see where a lot of people could argue with things in whatever way they want, but realistically, this is how I personally would look at playing casuals and ranked right now, and I would try to, if I was coaching somebody, this is what I would teach you. I would absolutely, if you're playing one of these gods, I think you're beast moding. If we were to order this, which I'll do, I'll gladly do, I would put Kali at the top. I would put Bastet here. I would put Ravana here. I would probably put Loki here because of skill. I think playing Loki is fairly easy for most people once they learn to auto attack cancel. I think people are still struggling with the skill side of Cleena, just like using their abilities and landing them properly. And then I think the rest of this is accurate. So this is, I would say, play Kali every single game right now. I even preach it on stream. I think I play Kali like 20 games out of my 50 games to get to Masters when I play controller. Kali is very good and very, very easy to play. And then when you fall down this, I'm not going to order any of the rest of the tier list, but just so you know, for like tippity top, this is what you should be playing. I think all of these gods are really good. I think the higher up you get, the harder it is to play some of them. Into like Diamond Masters, Arachne is going to be harder to play. Bologna will be harder to play. Erlang Shen gets a little bit harder to play. Poseidon gets harder to play, but the rest all going to be consistently good. Just got to watch out for your matchups. And then an average tier, this is where you start playing stuff because it's what you like or you just feel like playing at that game. You aren't really playing these to win your match. Like if your overall goal is just to win, stick with the top picks. Please, 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 please. Hope you guys learned something from this tier list. If you guys like it, please leave a like. I don't know if you guys actually like when I do certain things. So the more, if I get a ton of likes, I'm like, all right, I can do that again. If I don't get a lot of likes, I'm like, I don't know what I should do. So keep that in mind whenever you watch a video of somebody's. If you like it, hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Please, 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 please. Also, check out Smite Source. Go claim your account. Go. It takes literally like less than 30 seconds to claim your account. If you're confused about claiming the account, I have a little clip you can come into the stream and check out. It's me doing it, so you can just watch me do it, then you'll know how to do it. So that's the tier list. I'll see you on the video later tomorrow, the next day, the next day, the next day, and the next day.